Hi guys, Will Terry here with another video. 7 reasons I cannot illustrate your children's book. And before I get going on that, I want to just let you know that if you want to get a hold of me, you can always talk to me through my website, which I should have links right down here. If you want to friend me on Facebook, I just use my personal account under Will Terry. Anyway, I'm going to jump into this. I really hope that this title doesn't sound snarky, doesn't come across as snobbish in any way. This is mainly I'm making this video for 2 reasons. One, for my YouTube channel, but more importantly for I get asked like a lot of other illustrators, um, do you want to illustrate my children's book? Will you illustrate my children's book? I'm making a Kickstarter, and I'm wondering if I can raise money to so that you'll illustrate my children's book. And so I wanted to kind of go over some reasons why I say no to that. And again, I don't want to. I hope it doesn't come across as arrogant in any way. And I'm also hoping that other illustrators, because I know other illustrators get asked this question a lot too, and often asked, how do you answer it? And anyway, so here's my 7 reasons. Okay, so one, it kind of, and I'm going to try to, I know that some people who ask for me to illustrate their book want to do a self-published book, but a lot of them want to do go through a traditional publisher. So it's kind of, the waters are a little bit muddy here, but I'm going to try to stay on the traditional side a little bit mostly, and then I'll talk a little bit about the self-published route. So the first thing is that it breaks tradition, and by that I mean, and I'm not like a traditional guy. That's the funny thing, is like I'm all for self-publishing, but as far as like I get a lot of requests to, will you illustrate my book or do some illustrations for my book, and then we'll submit it to a publisher. The way that the order that it really works in is that the author submits a story to an agent or to an editor at a publishing house, and then they decide if they want to buy the manuscript. The agent will decide if they want to take it and present it to an editor. It's very hard to get into publishing houses. I've talked about that before. Right now, many will only work through agents. So the correct step is basically, or if there is such a thing as a correct step, but one way of doing it is to approach an agent, get an agent behind you, one that really appreciates and loves your work, and then they'll pitch it to an editor. The editor will if they like it, if they love it, and I've written about this on my blog. It's a huge, lengthy process, but if they really love it, and the publishing house ends up buying it from you, they reserve the right to find the illustrator. So it goes out of order to come to them with an illustrator. That's like the first kiss of death. So if I was to say yes to you, and I was to do a few illustrations, and we took it to an editor, it would be a sign of an amateur team that would do that, and so they would red flag it. They wouldn't even consider it because of that, because they you have to understand, publishers have access to thousands of illustrators. Basically, every illustrator that's put themselves out there um, is available through the internet for hire, and publishers really pride themselves on finding the perfect manuscript to go with the perfect illustrator. And the chances of me and you teaming up and becoming the perfect team for a specific publisher it's just like a shot in the dark. It's really it's just not the way things are done. Now, for traditional or for self-publishing, sure, that can happen, but I'll talk about. Hopefully, you'll understand through some of these other reasons why that's not an option for me either. But so it goes against tradition. It goes against their natural order. They really try to keep the author and illustrator separate from each other. They don't really even want us knowing each other. They want to make that connection themselves. The other option is that who they really like working with is an author illustrator, someone who writes and illustrates the book, and then they're dealing with one person. So another option that you have, if you're looking for an illustrator, is to learn how to illustrate and illustrate your own story. And then in that case, it would definitely be appropriate to submit to an editor. And most of the Caldecott Award winners in the last 30 or 40 years, I think, have been one person, author illustrator. But definitely, I don't know anybody who. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. There have been a few team ups where illustrators and authors have gotten together. But usually they both are kind of decorated and have a pedigree in publishing when that happens, and it's usually not somebody it's their first book who's teamed up with someone else and then it ends up working out. I don't know of any situations like that. Okay, so that's the first one, embrace tradition. The second one is quality. Um, when, and this goes back to the traditional again, the traditional publisher. When a publisher publishes a book, you have to understand I guess what I'm talking about here is this is speaking to the person who wants to self-publish. So when an editor at a publishing house contacts me and hires me to illustrate someone else's book, they're providing an editor who is a full-time editor who's been paid to go over the manuscript and make sure that everything's right. They pay full-time graphic designers. Pay full-time marketing people, um, and they do all this. They send the book overseas to be printed with high quality printing in China. So if I were to partner with someone who wanted to self-publish, the problem would be in quality control. I'm an illustrator and I'm not a graphic designer. So I don't want to get involved in managing the whole project of the book. And I don't want to leave that up to you because I don't know you. And I don't know what your credentials are. I don't know if you're a graphic designer, if you're going to hire a graphic designer. If you are going to hire a graphic designer, is it a top quality graphic designer, or is it someone who kind of does a little bit of dabbling in graphic design? The level of graphic design really matters. Are you going to get it printed at a cheap printing? There's so many. It causes so many questions. And if I'm going to put my name on a book, it has to be able to compete with the top quality of books that are out there, and I don't have any guarantee of that. And so that's a huge question in my mind. Now, some people might say, well, I'm gonna get the best printer, and I'm gonna get the best this and the best that, but still, there's so many variables, and I don't have time to get involved in managing the whole process, like I said. So quality is a big one. The next one is publisher contracts. So when I work with a traditional publisher, and I guess I'm speaking again to someone who wants to self-publish, um, when I work with a traditional publisher, they give me a contract, and in that contract, it promises that I'm going to get paid a guarantee that I'm going to get paid anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. That's the range that I get advanced for the children's books that I've done. They give me a print date, so it's set in stone. They have an actual print date that they want to hold to. They buy time at printers, and the printer will hold them to their print date. And if they blow their print date, they pay for that time, whether they get something printed or not. And so they're very motivated to make sure that they make that print date. They pair me up with a proven author, so the author has a track record. And if it's your first book, now I have to ask myself, why would I go with you versus someone who is, someone who's established in the children's book world, who has credentials. One of my last books was with Santa Pups with Jerry Pallotta. Jerry Pallotta does I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 school visits a year, where he's promoting his books. In this case, he's promoting our book. So that's something that I get from him without having to pay anything, without having to question, his motivations. He's going to go out there and sell books. In fact, our book Santa Pups is in the Scholastic Book Club, and I think it's probably more because of him than me. So that's something that I gain by working through a traditional publisher. Another one is award submissions. And just to give a brief little history, I've heard that there are somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200 book awards that a book can be eligible for throughout the continental U.S. Domestically, and I know that there are a lot of international awards that books can win as well. But my publishers will submit my books. They'll take copies of my books and actually mail them out to those award committees. And that's no small task. 200 books mailed out. They have the contacts. They know where to send them. That's how you get your book. You can't win the Caldecott if your book doesn't make it to the Caldecott committee. The way it makes it there is you have to physically send them a book. So I would also worry that if I were going to work on a self-published book, that you probably aren't going to submit our book to 200 different award places. It's a huge expense. It's a lot of time. I don't have time to do that. Another thing that they do is they make sure that your book gets reviewed. They submit it to Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, and a lot of Library School Journal, a lot of other places that review books. That really helps sales if you get a good review. They help you get in book clubs and so on and so forth. So with that publisher contract, you actually gain a lot. A lot more than just the money that you're promised. It's a real chance for your book to actually take off and do really well sales wise. And with that, let me just say that if I'm getting paid $10,000 to $20,000 for a children's book, and this goes into number 4, which is time. It takes me about 3 to 4 months to illustrate a children's book, and that's if I don't really have much else going on. Usually I get about a year in a contract from a publisher to finish a book. Sometimes it's even longer than that because they realize that I'm fitting other projects in, that I'm winding projects down, that I've got other things going on, and they give me a lot of time to do it. 3 to 4 months for $10,000 or $15,000 is not a lot of money if you do the math. I'm the sole breadwinner for my family, so that when that breaks down, that really means I'm in the poorhouse if my book doesn't sell beyond the first or second print run. I mean, it's got to get into royalties, and as it as it gets into those royalties, that's where my time spent on it can actually really pay off. But other than that, it's just it's a labor of love to be able to work on a children's book, especially if it doesn't earn out what they call earn out, which is sell enough copies to get into royalties, as I said. So that is something that I don't know if a lot of people realize when they ask me to illustrate their children's book. I think sometimes they probably think that it might take me a few weeks or maybe a month or something like that, but it's a 3 to 4 month commitment. And I think if you do the math and you divide 10,000 up by 4, you really come up with like $2,500 a month. Um, Personally, I supplement my income with a lot of other projects. I teach. I have some online companies. I work on other projects. A lot of my books do earn royalties. I make money from this YouTube channel. Um, I make money from school visits and all sorts of other things. So that's only part of it. But if I were to choose to do your book, that would probably mean I would be saying no to a publisher contract, which gives me the guarantee of this kind of money. And I don't think most people who want to self-publish actually have that kind of money to give out. And if they did, they'd probably think it was a ton of money, when really it's just not. Um, so there's that. And then I was going to go into something else, but I forgot. So I'll just go on with my next one. Yeah, the next one is number 5 is my own personal project. So really, and this really kind of gets to the heart of it. When I am not working on a publisher contract, I have my own projects. I have Folio Academy and I have svslearn.com, and I'm working on an Xbox game right now. I'm working on another book. I work on my story app. So I don't have enough time to finish and to really work on my own projects. I never have enough time. So that's probably the best reason right there is I just don't have time to work on something that would be speculative, where there wouldn't be any promise of any money beyond the initial advance, if there even was an advance. Sometimes people will ask me to illustrate their children's book and they don't have any money. They want a revenue share. And I want you to know, I'm never offended by anybody asking. Got a car outside there. But I'm never offended when someone asks me one of these things. I just want to make this video so so I give enough answers so it's really clear as to why. I am always bothered when people just don't get back to you. That's one thing that is a huge pet peeve of mine, is when I send an email to somebody and I just don't get a response at all. I think that's rude. I don't think most people are too busy to be able to respond back. So I plan on using this video um, as a response so that people actually have real answers and understand that, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but I have real reasons on why I say no to these kinds of projects. But I do think that there are definitely people out there who are in a position to say yes to something like this. One of my very first projects was a book project, and it was one that I did for $1,000. I think it was 1,000. It was either 1,000 or 2,000, and I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was 1,000. And I was tickled to get that. It was my very first book, and it was this was 22 years ago. And there are a lot of people in that situation who would love to get a little bit of money to actually try to do a project, and I'm all for that. I think that's great. It gives you a lot of learning opportunities, and a lot of people will say, you don't have any business self-publishing, whatever. Don't listen to them. Um, you learn by doing. So I'm a big fan of doing these kinds of projects. Another one, and this one is probably going to sound kind of arrogant, but it is really a reason, and I put it in there, and it's reputation. So again, this is talking about doing a traditional book. Okay, so one, the first thing I talked about was the breaks tradition, working with a traditional publisher, and that really is, the reason there is you just kind of sidestep all the order that's been laid into this publishing industry that is steeped in tradition, and you're never going to change them. I shouldn't say never, because there are always exceptions, but there's so few and far between that it's not even worth talking about. So there's that traditional route, but again, going back to um, the self-published book, um, it's weird, but because I've illustrated somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 children's books through traditional publishers like Scholastic and Random House, and Simon Schuster and Albert Whitman, and I know I'm forgetting some, but forgive me, Penguin. Um, because I've done those, if I did a self-published book with the first-time author, everyone in the community that knows me, I would think that editors would wonder, oh, why is he doing that? Like, oh, he must not be getting any work or something. I think it would be, it's weird, but I think you ratchet upwards in publishing. I don't think you want to go back down. And maybe that's a dumb reason, but I feel like it's a good one, so I put it on the list. I'd love to know what you think about that. You can put it in the comments. Um, and then the last one is trust. And a big reason is I don't really know you, so it's really hard for me to trust you. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not trustworthy, and it doesn't mean that I don't and haven't partnered with people that I don't know. I'm actually on the Xbox game that I'm working on right now. I'm partnered with a guy who I met online, and but I had to vet him, and I had to go through a lot of initial um, things to be sure and to be comfortable with working with him. And we've been working together now for close to 3 months, and it's just getting better and better. So I'm not against that totally, but at the same time, it is a concern. I would worry about getting paid. A big, huge one was working on a self-published book is I would worry that your commitment wouldn't be as high as mine, and I'd get into the project and you wouldn't follow through. That's something that, ironically, with traditional publishing, you really don't have to worry a whole lot about, especially with the internet now. Because if a traditional publisher screws an author or an illustrator, they are all more than happy to get on YouTube, to get on Facebook, to get on any social media site and let the big guy have it. And they have, if they have a reason, that's a good thing, I think. They have recourse. you don't have anything to lose. If you're wanting to do something that's self-published, you don't have a reputation in the community to tarnish. These big guys, if an illustrator comes out and says, "Hey, I'm not getting paid from so and so, pass it on," it spreads like wildfire. And I've seen it happen in some of my Facebook groups where the people will talk about not getting paid from a big group, and man, the comments just start flying, and everybody knows about it. And there's usually some sort of a solution that you read about, or at least kind of a letter saying, yeah, you're not going to get paid because we're going bankrupt or something like that. And then everybody knows not to work with that person. Anyway, they have skin in the game, and in general, you don't. And so that's a big thing, a big hurdle to get over. Not the end of the world, but it is kind of a reason that I put on there. What I'd like to end with is just saying that if you're asking an illustrator to illustrate your book for a traditional publisher, it says to me that you don't understand the process, and there's nothing wrong with not understanding the process. But one of the best ways to get educated on that is to attend a local SCBWI conference. That's SCBWI, and you can just Google that. It's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and there are chapters all over the world. It's an international organization for authors and illustrators, and they have classes, they have conferences, and they talk about all these issues that I talked about here all the time. And one of the best ways for you to learn the process is to actually attend one of those events. It really is. It's the only organization that I'm aware of that's as large as they are. There are a lot of other good conferences, a lot of other great writing conferences. Writing for Young Readers is a good one that's out here in Utah. And they will educate you, and they will show you how to do it. They will invite editors to come. You can get special stickers so you can submit your manuscript to editors. Agents will come to those, and you can meet those agents, and agents will tell you how to prepare a letter and how to prepare a query for them, as well as to editors. It's basically how new people in this industry learn the industry, is really through SCBWI. And I don't think I know anybody in the industry who is published who hasn't attended one of their events at least once. I think I can honestly say that. Anyway, so those are the 7 reasons why I will not illustrate your book, but it doesn't mean that you should stop trying with me by any means. I think that if you have a dream, if you have a passion to get your book in front of a large audience, that's what you want. You want to get your book in front of a lot of people. So whether you go the traditional route or whether you go the self-published route, both are going to be hard to do. The good thing about going the traditional route is if you're good, if you're accepted, a lot of the work is going to be done for you, a lot of the work. And the magnification that you get, the amplification from the traditional publishing arm is huge compared to doing it on your own, self-publishing. The cool thing about self-publishing is you can get it done, and you can get it in front of people, and you can get it seen. Some people just want to get a book. I think I get this feeling a lot that some people just want to get a book published for their posterity, for their children. They're retired, and they've had a story bouncing around in their head, or they've had a story that they've been telling their kids for a long time. I hear that one a lot. They have a story that they wrote that they just think would be really well received, and they don't have time to go the traditional publishing route. Then try it. Try the self-publishing route. There's nowadays more than any, you have options. You have if you have the means, you can get it done. Getting it distributed is going to be really hard. A lot of bookstores won't carry them. Most bookstores won't carry them, I think. So it's a huge uphill battle to get the book out there, but it's been done, and there are plenty of people that are doing it. A lot of people are going the ebook route because it's cheaper. Times are changing, and traditional publishing is really being tested right now, but it's still very strong. And I wouldn't say that by any means you have either one is. I would say neither one is wrong to try to do. at all. I don't. There's a lot of people in the self-publishing camp that poke jabs at the traditional publishing camp and vice versa. But I think they both have their strengths and their weaknesses. So anyway, I hope this helps you, and good luck with your project. And I hope to see you back here on my YouTube channel. Thanks. Bye.